Good afternoon, good afternoon. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Good afternoon, admin, Sir Jambi, Sir Jello, and Teacher Pao. Akala ko di makakahabol si Teacher Pao, no?
Yes, and we're
May
complete.
event, may pagganap ngayon, ano? Minsan talaga, may mga priorities si Teacher Pao, no? Pag iba yung speaker, ang bilis, maaga. Aga, nasa backstage siya agad.
Correct.
So, confirm agad. Anyway, good afternoon, teachers. So anyway, so welcome po, teachers, at magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. And welcome to the opening session of our August series. Ito po ay on inclusive education in distance learning. So that's going to be the primary theme of our entire August series. And of course, what's the best way to start our August series? But of course, with Google, yes. Syempre, promoted with Google. That's going to be...
Di bale, Sir Franco, we always seem to end with the best.
Yeah. Okay, hindi nilagay sa anyway, we'll do that talaga, no? Well, definitely all the episodes of August series something that worth attending, no, during for the entire series. I hope that you can actually join us for the entire series, okay? Beginning with this one, okay? So siguro Sir Jambi, Sir Jello, and Teacher Pao, we can do some greetings first, okay? To our viewers right now. We have 214 live viewers as the
Wow.
moment from all over the country and also from other countries as well. I think, Teacher Pao, we saw someone from Ukraine, someone from Egypt also as watching, some viewers from Egypt as well. So we're all over the world right now. And of course, okay, our speaker for today will definitely be able to meet all your expectations and all your the things that you need to know about Google Workspace for education, accessibility features. So go ahead, Sir Jambi, why not start greetings? Okay, just do the marking. It's up to you. Where you
Bahala
want to
na.
start? Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Let's just...
Batiin natin ang ating mga kaagapay. Maraming salamat for joining us this afternoon. We start with Miss Glenda Agayan, Jerome Carlo Patungan from Camarines Sur, Priscilla de Guzman from San Fabian, Rachel Bermejo, watching from Tandangsora National High School, Russell Bongabong, Amelita Martinez de los Reyes from AU Main Campus. Ito ba, Arellano ba to? Arellano University. Teacher Ellie Austria, Maria Ana Feso Malinog from Davao. Ayan. Ay, sana okay yung mga natin, yung mga kaagapay natin down south. Tama ba? If I'm not mistaken, may news of an earthquake kaninang umaga, di ba?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Jambi. May earthquake akong nakita rin ng mga posts sa Facebook.
Sana okay po kayo.
This
Yan.
morning po.
Or Teacher Romel Rosita, Teacher Marisa Gumabong, Dennis Serso, Abigail Ramos, Alvin Ignao. Happy mega afternoon to one and all. Ayan, dahil maganda yung kanyang comment, I will end with his comment. Go ahead, Sir Jello. Nahanap mo na ba?
Okay, nahanap ko na. Yun. Good afternoon din kay Ma'am Edna Ricafort, Sir Ronnie Jaime, Miss Nora Prado, Titzer, tama ba? Titzer Del Torres, okay, Sir Louis Jacob, Miss Jacqueline Catalian, sorry po if I will pronounce it improperly. Akup,
Hulaan ko, Rhea yan.
Rhea. Okay, Rhea Puka. Okay, so binaligtad. Okay, sorry. Ma'am Judith Agamon. Kay Ma'am Chepia Bragat. And kay Ma'am Evelyn Akailar. Yan. And siguro pa ito, mag-end ako dito kay Ma'am Pokish or from Albay. Okay, so Teacher Pao.
All right, so we want to greet our speaker, Miss Stephanie Howell, who actually greeted everyone in the chat. Okay, followed by Miss Annie Lee de Villena, Ma'am Sushma Kumari. Ma'am Sushma, if you could kindly tell us where you're from. I suppose you're not from the Philippines and you're from abroad. Just let us know. Ma'am Mardelis Cohotor from Iligan City, Ma'am Angelina Carpio Reyes as always. Ma'am Mary Corbanez is here, Sir Julio Tambio, from Tuguegarao si Ma'am Maricor. And then we have from Binangonan Rizal, Ma'am Catherine Blanquisco. Then we have Ma'am Jerofi Torres, Sir Ronald Alvaro, Ma'am Daniel Francis Hirang, Ma'am Hyacinth Joy Espedilla, and then Ma'am Glenda Hernandez from APL Slideshows. I'm curious, what is APL Slideshows? All right. And from Davao City also, Ma'am Karen Francis Kete.
Yan, and again, magandang hapon and good afternoon to all of you teachers. Of course, we'll not be able to greet everyone, but we wish you all the best. No? Sana po nasa maayos tayong kalagayan, kahit po meron mga nangyayari sa paligid natin. And also, I don't know if the weather is good on your end, okay, but I hope that you are all safe. No? Pero siguro po, let's now begin. No? At siguro bago natin ipakilala yung ating first speaker for today, Sir Jambi and Sir Jello and Teacher Pao. No? Let's first, of course, talk about itong theme natin for today. So Sir Jello, if I may ask, no, if we're talking about inclusive education, what for you, for example, no, what's your concept of what it means to be inclusive in education?
Ako, Sir Franco, once narinig ko inclusivity and even the accessibility, it always goes back to the phrase na no child is left behind. Kumaga, lahat ay may opportunity to learn. And I think our theme is very much appropriate, especially that we are about to begin again our journey, or for some na already have begun, kailangan hindi pa rin natin kalimutan kahit ito na nung technology, even if we are having so much technology, so much integration, we always have to think about all of our students, not only those who need to be taken account for, but also those who might be left behind due to some disabilities. I don't know if tama. Hopefully tama po yung aking term. Baka politically okay, correct,
Right
hopefully.
now, they use the
Parang,
term differently abled.
yon, okay. So,
Yes.
pasensya na po.
Okay.
Ayan,
Because
again,
we
the
don't
differently.
really promote the idea of
Yes.
disability.
Oo
We
nga
call it
eh, tama.
differently
Yon.
abled. Okay?
Okay, so
So thank you. Maraming
Diretso.
salamat, Sir Jello. No?
Yon.
Well, ako na, siyempre, in-interview ko mga co-administrators ko. Teacher Pao, gusto ko lang malaman kung in the Philippines especially, no, so that also our speaker will be able to have like a little bit of context, no, of what inclusive education, the facing, no, and the position of inclusive education in the Philippines. What do you think is the hindrance or difficulty on why up until today inclusive education is still a problem in the Philippines?
Parang quiz bee.
Yes, syempre.
Parang quiz bee. Parang binabalikan ko yung yung college days ko. Baka mapahiya ako dito. But yeah, actually it takes a lot of, siguro no, we can start with our training as teachers, no. How many of us have actually been trained to work with
Yes.
students with different abilities, no? I'm very sure na if you are studying your majors, definitely your subjects are loaded with your majors, no? But how about having a subject that deals with students who have difficulty, no, handling different kinds of learning uh strategies, no? So I think it starts with that. Okay, and also the awareness, no, of where the students are at. Siguro mas yun na talagang siguro sa dami din kasi ng student, no. I think that's one of the main concern, no, definitely, especially for public schools. You're handling 40. How do you differentiate 40 students if 'di ba? Kakayanin mo yan kung 10 students, no? Individual, meron ka pang individualized education plan. Kayang-kaya mong gawin yan pag 10. Pero pag 40, paano mo siya gagawin, di ba? So how are you able to manage that? I think that's one major concern that our teachers are actually facing. Even if they may be equipped with different tools, but the class size is really too big, that is a concern.
Yes. And ito siguro last question before we introduce our speaker for course and for Sir Jambi, because I really reserve this for Sir Jambi. Because Sir Jambi is teaching in an environment, the alternative alt ed education. And that's actually one that's promoting accessibility. So Sir Jambi, in your experience in Alted, no, what are the things that you have encountered so far, and what are the things that you have done so far in order to promote accessibility and inclusiveness in your setup in Alted?
Okay, thank you for that question, Sir Franco. uh, Alam nyo, dear teachers, ano naman hindi sa you'd be surprised, pero alam naman natin lahat ito. Lahat ng mga mag-aaral natin, if and when given the chance to study, gusto naman nilang matuto. Diba? Uh, Yun nga, it's just a matter of giving them opportunities. Mahirap definitely. In the Philippines, mahirap talaga. Um, Kaya nga thankful ako na may mga tools, may mga applications na ganito na kahit papaano uh, makes make things easier for the teachers and even for the students. Lalo na kunyari in the case of Google, it's free kasi, di ba? And many of the applications now, ang labanan ngayon, pababaan ng bandwidth use. Diba?
Yes.
So, talagang thankful ako for technology kasi um, malayo pa pero papunta tayo dun sa direction na na na-equalize yung playing field. And again, pati sa mga teachers kasi aminin natin, uh, bukal sa puso natin yung siguraduhin walang maiiwan na estudyante, but it's very, very difficult.
Yes.
Okay? It's very, very difficult. Kailangan mo ng tulong, kailangan mo ng resources, and unfortunately, we don't have that much resources yet in our country. Pero dahil sa mga ganitong features, ganitong mga applications, ganitong mga tools, kahit papano, we're moving towards the right direction. So,
Yes, indeed. And I hope that we can get to that point because again, we want all students to be able to actually learn at the same time, no, at same pacing or different pacing, but of course learning at every time, no, and not leaving any, as mentioned by Sir Jello, not leaving any student behind in our learning process. And that's now, no, let's begin, no, this series, no, this August series on inclusive education with accessibility features of the Google Workspace for Education. Siyempre, I'm proud na naka-Google for Education shirt pa tayo dyan. Ano? So let's now introduce, Sir Jambi, would you like to do the honor to introduce our speaker for
of
today?
course, as usual, it is always my honor and pleasure to introduce to you all our very special guest for this afternoon, who has masters in curriculum and instruction and in educational leadership. She has also been working in Pickerington schools since 2014. She has spoken at conferences such as ISTE, ITIP, and OETC. Hopefully, ma-explain niya sa atin kung ano yung mga yun later on. And her most recent achievements include being part of the team named ISTE's Distinguished District, WOSU Leadership Award, being a Google Innovator, and receiving the PLSD's Innovative Leader Award. She is, of course, also one of the founding members of Global GEG and Gold EDU. Ladies and gentlemen, aming mga kaagapay, our guest for this afternoon, Miss Stephanie Howell.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Steph.
How are
Hello.
you?
Hello, Steph. Good afternoon on our end. I think it's morning on your end. Okay, and again, thank you so much for accommodating us even on the different time zones. And again, always thankful for being with us here. And I would like to congratulate you, Steph, by the way, for the recent conclusion of the bootcamp for level 1 and level 2 at Global GEG. I think it was a success. Things I attended actually that so that I could learn how to better handle the training here in the Philippines. Okay. So, Steph, maybe before we ask you to take the floor and or continue with your session, maybe you could give us like what are we going to be discussing and what we're going to be covering for this entire session. Like
Yes.
an overview. Yes, go ahead.
So today we're going to be talking about accessibility.
and kind of how to design different lessons with that accessibility in your mind. When I was in school in second grade, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. And in America, they call it a learning disability. And honestly, school was hard for me. I hated school. And so that's kind of my why. That's my mission. So this really felt home. So I'm really excited to be here.
Okay. Admins, would you like to have questions or preliminary questions, or are we okay to go now? Okay,
Yes,
sige.
actually,
Okay.
we are very excited just to know the whole experience of Stephanie now that she has
Yes.
shared, the struggle that she had. So,
Mhm.
yeah, very excited.
Okay, Steph, good luck on your session. Teachers, enjoy the session. Don't forget that after this talk, after the session, we'll be giving the evaluation link for your certificate, for the application for certificates. Okay, so enjoy, and we'll see you in a while. We'll be in the chat. If you have questions, do engage us in the chat box. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. So, as I was saying earlier, my why and my reason is because I hated school. School was really difficult for me. A lot of my teachers didn't know how to really teach and differentiate their classroom. And so I hated school. And that's kind of my why. I was like, I don't want to go into education, but I felt like I needed to kind of transform and help people understand how to teach all students. I love that they were talking about all students at the beginning of this session. Like, that is what this is about. We're supposed to make sure that we are able to reach every single student. And my parents were probably my biggest advocate, which was also really amazing, but it also hurt me a little bit because I had to learn how to advocate for myself. And I didn't learn that skill until college. So when I started teaching, that was kind of my thing, is I wanted my students to be able to say, hey, I need extra time and I get that extra time, or I need the computer to read to me. And so that is, again, just some of my why. And when I first started teaching, I taught students with disabilities for 3 years. It was difficult. And when I introduced technology to them, it built up their confidence. It made them more successful. It allowed them to try things that they might not have on paper because they had the support of maybe spell check, reading aloud. They could look up anything that they were unsure about. And so it was teaching those kids those skills. In order to do that is when I really started to see the transformation in the classroom. And because of that, I became really obsessed with ed tech. So using technology in the classroom, and I wanted every single teacher to have that same success I did. I wanted them to be able to knock down some of those barriers that I was seeing in the classroom and that I experienced as a student. So I'm really excited to kind of talk about this. If you want the slides, the bit.ly link is on the slide deck. So feel free to join and follow along. Some of the links are locked. And so if they're locked, they are part of a Google group. So if you want to explore some of these resources in more detail, please join the Google group. I would love to have you. And again, I just share my resources with this Google group, and whatever I find or whatever I create, I usually share it with this group. So if you are interested in any of the resources in the slide deck and it says like you don't have access, it's because you're not a part of the Google group. So that's just a real quick thing. Just go to this bit.ly right here, and you are able to join in and have and recreate any of the resources I shared today. So again, my name is Stephanie Howell. Feel free to follow me on Twitter or whatever social media you are on. Love connecting. And if you guys have additional questions, I'm trying to follow with the chat, but you guys are fast. You guys are good. And I just love seeing this chat. So if I miss your question, send me a DM. So if you have any questions throughout and I don't answer it, it's probably because I didn't see it. So just send me a DM on Twitter. Okay, so first let's talk about what is accessibility and why is it important? I don't know about you guys, but when I go to a store, I sometimes use the elevator. And when I use that elevator, I don't typically, I don't have like a physical disability. And so my legs aren't, I didn't break my leg. I didn't do, I wasn't born, with different maybe CP or something like that. And so I just used an elevator because it's convenient. Maybe I don't want to take the stairs. Another thing is like wheelchair ramps. How many of you have had like a bag or you have something on wheels and you are just like, I'm going to take that wheelchair ramp instead of trying to lift it up, move it around and trying to maneuver it. Anyone else? So think about the world around you. The escalator. How many of you take the escalator? And again, there's stairs right down the hall, but I still take the escalator because it's more convenient. It's more faster for me. It's, time consuming. And then we've got the garage door opener. The garage door opener, I click a button and it opens up my garage door. I don't have to get out of my car. If it's raining, I don't have to get out of my car and open it. All of these things were designed for people who have disabilities. It was for those people that had a disability to make their life easier. However, in doing that, it also made my life easier. Again, I don't have a physical disability. And because of that, I still use these things that were created with somebody who has a disability. So it was, again, designed for someone with that accessibility in mind, where for me, I just use it. And so does anyone else use these things, even though the stairs or something else is right there? Let me know in the chat. I would love to see like your guys' responses. Or is there something that you use that, again, was created for somebody with a disability? So just kind of think about the world around you. What is out there that, again, is created for someone with a disability in mind, but everybody uses it because it makes their life easier. So that is kind of what we have to think about is if we create something for a student that has a disability, it's going to help all students. And that's what's like amazing is like some of these scaffolds and some of these things that happen within technology really does help all students. And so that is why I really love special education because I also was an inclusion teacher. So with that, I co-taught with a regular ed teacher. So our class was split. We had 50% spec ed, 50% reg ed. And some of the strategies I used with my spec ed students helped my regular ed students. And they found those different things to be more successful. They were able to use those scaffolds and slowly move away from them. So again, if anything, you are going to be able to have, all of these different accessibility features and be able to use them in the world around us. And every single student will benefit when we are creating with accessibility and students with disability in mind. So the next question, how does Google Workspace address these different learning styles and different preferences? And let me tell you, when I first started teaching, your first year, I feel like, is a hot mess. And that was my year. I felt very unsuccessful. And so over Christmas break, I went home and I started to research. I found this thing called Google Classroom. And it was brand new. Back in 2014, it was a rough version of Google Classroom. And I had no idea the potential it was going to have in my classroom. Got all my students registered after break in January. And we just used it on Fridays. I was like that teacher that was like, oh, I can't take this magic and I can't have it be used every single day. My kids were begging to have it every single day. But I, again, was like, you are only using this on Fridays because I didn't want them to get bored of it, or I didn't want my tool that I finally found and was having success with to like go crazy. And it was a crazy thinking. I know I'm insane. But with that, my students gained more confidence. In Google Classroom, they could go in and they were able to have things read aloud to them. They didn't need me to read every single word to them. They had that independence to click which words they needed to have read to them. And again, they didn't need me to help them do that. Another thing that was great was the feedback. My students, again, a lot of times spec ed students, they're with the teacher all the time. And so again, they were able to have that flexibility of that independence. And in Google Documents, we could chat with each other. And so I could be over here working with another student or just working on something else and looking at their feedback and giving them feedback to them in that document. And they could make those corrections really quickly. And they didn't, again, feel embarrassed because I was pulling them up. Another thing that Google Classroom really did for me was allowing choice. I could post like multiple assignments and then my kids could pick which writing prompt they wanted to write about. And so again, I didn't have to say, you're writing about this. they got to choose what they wanted to talk about. And then again, the spell check that allowed them to be have a lot of features as well. But there are built-in features. So Google provides a lot of built-in features that are already in our Chromebooks. They're already ready to go. And so some of these features can help and encourage your students. So for example, we've got Select to Speak. This is, and all of the links right here are all clickable. So on slide 8, if you want to learn more, you are more than welcome to click and learn more whenever you want. And so right here, we've got Read Aloud. Students can highlight a word and it will read that word to them. So again, my students don't need to hear me reading everything to them. They have that independence. They have that, they're starting to advocate for what they need. They don't need, again, me to do that for them. And so right here with that Read Aloud, they're able to do that feature. And you just go in and you can turn it on and kind of get all of that set up. So usually at the beginning of the year, I walked with students and I talked through these different accessibilities. I'm like, do you think this would help you? Do you think this would help you? And then we would learn how to do it together. Another thing is that zooming out and zooming in. So if you hit Command plus, students can zoom in. If you hit Command minus, they can zoom out. If you hit this reset button, it just resets it to the screen. And that can help as well as your students need maybe a closer view or a farther away view of whatever is happening. So that can help as well. Another thing is that high contrast mode. So right here, you can kind of see the colors on the Chromebook. And so some of your students need it to be maybe a dark mode or a light mode. So you just go into accessibility and you're able to turn that feature on for students. And what's so great about Chrome is if students log into another device, it remembers their settings. And I just love that because when I log into a Mac, we just got new MacBooks and it didn't remember any of my settings. So I had to go back in and reset that up. Where here, if students have to log into another device, then that's what they have to do. Another thing is that Chrome Live Captions. So if students need to see what's happening, and this can really help with reading comprehension, is students are able to see what is happening as it's being read aloud or as the video is talking, and they can follow along, and it will help them learn new words that they might not have known. And so that, again, can just help students turning on those live captions. And all of these are in those settings, advanced, and then accessibility. And then using that mouse and trackpad. So you can always go in, and I know a lot of times kids have issues like touching and clicking around. So with this, they are able to kind of customize whatever they need to be successful when they click. So that could help too. And so now we're going to talk about some extensions. So those were all built-in feature that Chrome, Google has created for us. And again, all of those are found in the settings, and then kids can customize them. That's what I also love about accessibility, is students are able to go in and they can talk about how they want this to look and what they want their settings to be. And with that, again, extensions. These allow the browser to have some functions, I like to call it like magic, that might not be able to be done without these extensions. And so some of my favorite ones are like Read and Write for Google. So Read and Write for Google is a great extension. It can have everything read aloud, and there's a toolbar up here, and you can kind of see the word earth is highlighted. Students can pick the dictionary. They can also have a picture dictionary. So they can see the word, but they can also listen to the word. So they can hit that play button and it will read it to them. Another thing that I really love about Read and Write is that it takes a blue and it follows along. So as the students are doing, so if we go to like this website right here, let's see here, I'm going to search cats. Let's go to Wikipedia. I go to this Read and Write toolbar up here, and it's free for educators. You do have to pay for the student version. But if I go up here and I click this word and I just want this sentence to read to me, I hit the play button.
This article is about the species that is.
I love that it's yellow and it turns blue. That tracking really does help students with disabilities. And so if they can just follow along where it's going, they don't lose their place. They can really focus in. So that can help as well. And then again, we saw earlier, but if you click the dictionary tools, you can see all of these different images and all of these different features. And
Now,
again,
is
if you click that play button, it reads it to you. So this could be really helpful for your students as well. There's also different ways that you can highlight. So if I highlight different things as I'm doing research, and then I click this button right here, it will collect those highlights and put them on a Google Doc. And so then my students went in and they could add additional information about this topic. They could add additional information about whatever they were learning. They could also go in here and click that picture dictionary, and they could drag this over here, these little icons, and then use them right into their learning. So I just love Read and Write. It's such a great way for students to learn and use these features. Another thing with Read and Write is, let's go back here and let's keep highlighting a couple words. Let me go back real quick. Let's do humans, either, from, and let's do cat again. Okay. Now, if I click this button right here, it creates a vocabulary list for all your students. And your students are going to have a wide range of abilities. And some students really do struggle with vocabulary. So I love this Read and Write feature because look, it creates a table for you. It's got the word here, the meaning here, and then the symbol. And then your students can come over here and add additional notes to their learning. And so they could add whatever they needed to do with that word chart. And again, it's so easy. Yes, this extension is free for educators. You have to like go to Text Help and you have to kind of add it. But for students, it is, you do have to pay for it. So you do kind of have to pay for it, but it's totally worth it. We use it in our district and we love it. Another feature is that Open Dyslexia. So right here with Open Dyslexic, it will change the font. So you can kind of see on this video right here. Once you add this extension, here's the font, and then it can change it so that it has that Open Dyslexia font. And again, font can be really difficult for students with disability. When I've got teachers that email me with the font, it's like New Romans and it's like the size of 12, I have a hard time reading it. So I usually have to zoom in, kind of like really focus in on what I'm reading. But when the font is different, like Lexan and all those other fonts that are a little bit more open space between the word, like the letters, I find it a lot easier to read. So if your student might need that, that could be an option as well. And so all they need is that extension. It's right here, and then they just turn it on. And there you go. It just quickly changes that font to that Open Dyslexic font. So your students can then follow along and read that. Another one is the Stay Focused. This was great for my students that might have had ADHD. What this one does is any student that might need to just focus in on a site, it will like block other sites for them. And there's a timer. And so then they can go back and rewatch it. I had a lot of students that had ADHD and they just needed help staying focused. And so I would set it this timer and I would say, okay, if you can do this task for 14 minutes, then you can get a break or you can do this. And it really did help that they could have a timer, really focus in on what they needed to do for that amount of time. And they weren't tempted to open up another tab because it was blocked. So this could be another option as well. Another one is this Dolus. So right here, it takes your screen and it can put it into 2 screens. So a lot of times our students might need to see this in multiple different screens. So if they go over here to the extension, it's right here, they can pick what kind of setup they want. And you can kind of see what this looks like. So over here, I've got my presentation. Over here, I've got the other screen. I can be typing in here as I'm working or as I'm trying to do something. And I can really start to focus in on, okay, I don't have to go tab like this, tab, and then I have to type again. Tab, like they see it directly on how it's supposed to look, how it's supposed to feel. And it can just make things really, really easy for your students to follow along with all of those different things that they have to do. And that can really help their executive functioning skills to be able to do that as well. And let me know in the chat too, are there any extensions that you use with your students? There's so many extensions out there that we could have missed one. So I just wanted to give you guys a couple and to get you guys start to think about it. But yeah, let us know if there's any that you might know as well. And then this one right here, it's Magic Scroll. What this does is you can see the web page here, and then it takes away all of those ads. So again, the website is really, really busy. And then you take away all those ads and it looks a little bit more free for your students to view. Oh, Moat. I love Moat. Yes, Moat is such a great one to use. That one has voice features, so you can have students respond by voice. You can also have them respond by audio. I just did a session on Moat, and on that session, it's a Moat bingo. And so what I was thinking with this, and I can throw the YouTube link in the private chat, is what students would do is they would go over here and they would create this bingo board. Once they have their bingo board, they use Moat to give the answer. So just a fun way to kind of talk with them, have them not use that Moat extension, but using their voice to communicate. And then they would get 4 in a row or whatever they're thinking. Cami is another great one. Edpuzzle, yes, all of those are so great. So keep sharing in the chat. There are so many extensions that can help our students with disability. Now we're going to look at Google Workspace. Okay, so we looked at features that were built in. We looked at extensions that were built in as well. And right here, we're going to start with Google Drive. So with Google Drive, again, one of the biggest features that some of our students need help with is that executive functioning skill, that organizational skill. Their lives, their minds are kind of all over the place. They need help creating an organizational structure. So just some things that you could do is have them create folders. So if we go into our Google Drive, I can right click and I can create a brand new folder and I can call this testing, let's say. Once I have that folder, students can then drag all of these things into that folder to stay organized. Another thing with this is they can rename these folders and they can add emojis. So if you add an emoji on a Mac, it is Control-Command-Spacebar. I don't know how many of you love emojis, but I love emojis. On a Chromebook, they just right click and then they hit special characters and emojis. And then again, I can add whatever I want onto here and it moves it up front. This can be really, really helpful for your students with disabilities. When I was teaching, I also like to, you can kind of see right here in my presentation, I added a little wheelchair. So I might have like a key for all of my files for my students. So again, wheelchair might be for this one, but if it's a video resource, I might go in and I might add the video symbol to all of my Drive files that have video. That way my students know that image means video. And then again, it just helps them with that cognitive load and knowing what they need to do and what they kind of need to do as well. Another thing is that view. So on your Drive, you have 2 different views. I'm a grid view. Let's hear it in the chat. Are you grid view? Are you list view? This is grid view. This one is list view. List view for me is overwhelming. I need to see it. I need to visually picture all of my documents. That there's too much text here for me because I have that dyslexia and it's like overwhelming. So again, I am a grid view person. What are you? Let me know in the chat, but that can simply help students as well. And all it is this click of a button. You just click it and you're able to see what you need. And it's just funny because we're all so different in what we need and what we kind of want for our students. Another thing that you might want to think about is bookmarks. So up here, I've got a teacher. I don't use this trick, but I know a lot of students that find success in teachers that do. They'll create like a bookmark and they'll just bookmark like this presentation. So they'll add this to their bookmark bar. And whenever they need it, they just go into their bookmarks and it's right there. So that could be a way to help students as well. Everybody has a different way of organizing, so that might not work. It doesn't work for me, but it might work for some of your students. Yes, we've got a lot of grid views. I love it. If Avid Patel was here, he would hate me. Another thing is I was seeing in the chat that accessibility for students who might not have internet. And a lot of our students might not have that internet available to them. And because of that, we might have to use that offline view. And so again, in here, I always train my students on that first day, go into settings. Oh, wrong settings. Go into settings. And then if you scroll down offline, and I have them turn this on. So anytime they're offline, they can still be working on all of these different things. So again, you just turn on this feature and it will work offline. And then when they're connected to the Wi-Fi or when they're back at school or wherever, everything will resync. Google Classroom is working on this feature. It should be out hopefully soon. But then you'll be able to view all of your work offline and students can still continue because that is an accessibility feature that a lot of our students don't have access to is that Wi-Fi. And so we've got to figure out how can we allow them to still do their work even if they don't have that Wi-Fi. Another thing is using the search. So when I'm in Google Drive, I can go up here and I can search whatever I need to do. So like, let's do video. So I like to train my students on searching for video or whatever they need to find, and that will help them find things a lot faster in their Drive. And then I tell them to use this search options over here, and they can look for any type of file. So maybe I want a Google presentation. Maybe I want it to be only owned by me. And all of these different things really do help me as an individual find things quicker. I don't have to go and search every single file. So there is everything that I've ever made that has the word video somewhere in the title or somewhere in there. So again, it just helps them really quickly find different things quicker and faster. They can also go over here and they can search other people. So maybe it's not owned by me. I'm like, oh, I remember it was somebody else, but it wasn't me. And it was a presentation, and I'm going to get rid of that word video. Here are all the videos that are presentations that are owned by me. And so then I can go in and kind of look at that as well. So that was Google Drive. Right here on the please more, you can click this, and I've done a session on, okay, Google Organize My Drive. This is for kids. It's also for teachers, but my audience, my focus was for students. So I've turned off, I turned on like, yes, this is for students because I wanted to make sure it was COPA, FERPA, all of those privacy laws, it was safe for students. So a lot of my teachers will share this video with their students at the beginning of the school year, and it just goes through how to organize their drive. So that way they can have a successful year. If you go down, I also timestamp everything, which helps students because maybe they don't need tip 1. They already love grid view and it's already set up, so they can skip and they can go right to tip number 2. Maybe they're good with that. They can go to tip number 4, and they can use these different chapters that are built into YouTube to really explore all the different features that they need to be successful with organizing their Google Drive to help that feature and help their accessibility in their classroom. So again, all of those links are up here in the more please. Okay, the next one is Google Classroom. You guys know how much I loved Google Classroom when I was teaching. It started my passion for ed tech, so it has a special place in my heart. What I like to do is I like to have teachers put videos in their Google Classroom. So a lot of times I'll talk to teachers and I'll say, okay, create a video of your expectations for the week. And so this is like what a lot of my teachers do is they have weekly like must-do, may-do boards, and they just create a video and they put this and the video into the Google Classroom. And so when they put that into the Google Classroom, the students can watch the video. And again, if you add those timestamps, just like our other video, they can go back and rewatch. What was this task that I was supposed to do? What was this task? They are able to go back and rewatch your directions as many times as they need. So that could be as helpful as well. So there's also this reflection piece, like, do they got it? Do they not? And you're helping your students by building up their confidence, building up their advocacy. So that way, if they do need help, they're communicating with you and you're starting to help them with those conversations of like, it's okay, you don't get it. We're going to work together to figure this out. So this is like an example again, and my teachers often create videos to help students understand like the different tasks and what's expected for them. And then they throw this into Google Classroom. Here's just another example. So it doesn't matter what it looks like as long as it's kind of organized for your students. But this is just another view. So if you wanted to see a different view, here's just another option. This one has like a checklist so your students can write the word done when they finish it. Again, checklists can really help students so they know, okay, I've done this, and it can help them stay on task of what they need to do. And then again, teachers can create a video of what all of this means and the directions, expectations, and then they can throw all of that into their Google Classroom and they can timestamp their videos as well. So they can say at 00, I talked about work on argument essay. At 1 minute and 4 seconds, I worked on digital content. So they can really go in and start to scaffold their directions as well. Headers. So we did a session on Gold and it was Google Classroom headers. And it was a lot of fun. So if you want to learn how to make these beautiful headers, let me see if I can find, like, look at these. Go in and rewatch this session. It was so much fun. We were able to create all these beautiful classroom headers. So I highly suggest if you want more, this is a great resource. Another thing with headers is you can put reminders. So on here, I can create a header, and I love to use Canva. I don't know if anybody else uses Canva, but it's free for educators, and it's amazing. And so I can go in and I can customize my own header. And then after I create my own header, like you could see that one right there, I can add different text to my slide, my header slide, and I can put reminders for my students. I can have them remember that, hey, don't forget your permission slip, or hey, don't forget this. And then I can add it to my Google Classroom to remind my students of all of those different things. Like here's an example, and I can go in and instead of saying welcome to Harmon Counseling, I can write, come and don't forget to do your homework tonight. Don't forget that we have a meeting at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, or whatever you need to do. And again, it's just another place for your students to see those different reminders. Differentiation. Google Classroom allows you to assign just to students. And so you are able to go in and differentiate your classroom because you're allowed to just send it to certain students, which is really, really nice. So if I go to Google Classroom and I can go into any of my classes and I go into maybe classwork and I go in here and I create an assignment. Let me go ahead and let's do this must-do list. So I'm going to grab this link. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to add the link. I want every single student to get their own copy. So that way they can mark on it. I can add comments if I say, okay, you're working really hard today. I don't need you to do this activity. You've mastered this. You can skip this. So I can go in and do those different things and really start to differentiate for my students. This must-do board might be for Group A. So the Group A might have some different needs than Group B. And so what I love about Google as well is you can go to File, Make a Copy, and then I can customize it for Group B. So this one, again, it might be Group A, File, Make a Copy, Group B. And they have different work that they're working on to succeed. And this is all done because I have built those relationships. I know my students. I know what skills gaps they've had. I'm looking at all of that assessment data. And then right here, I can write must-do list. And then over here, I can assign it to whatever students I need to assign it. This class has 0 students. That's why no one's popping up. But I would just click which students I need to assign this to. And then they're able to work on that assignment. Another tip that teachers do in my district is they create different classrooms for their different students. So like they might have class A, group B, and they've got 2 different Google Classrooms for the same class, but different students are in there working on different skills. So again, it depends on your level with blended learning on what model you might pick, but that could be another option for you. And students kind of travel in and out of those classrooms working on things at their own pace. And so it's really cool to see. So let me see if I can pop that open as well. And I can kind of show you an example of what this might look like. So in Google Classroom, if it will load, I have a ton of classes, so it might take a while. And that's another thing is sometimes you just keep adding stuff because you're just so in love with it. But right here, I've got my Google Classroom. We use this thing, it's called the grid method, and it's amazing. And so with the grid method, let me go to YouTube because I did a session on global GEG, and I'm sure I'll talk more about the grid method in a little bit. it is. And so what it is, like just a real quick overview. Let me go back just a little bit. Right here, there is a Google Doc, and you can see it's all broken up by levels. And what your students do is they travel between the levels, and as they master concepts, they move up the board. You could put level 1 at the top. Some of my teachers do that, and the kids move down, but it's totally up to you on how you kind of organize and set this up. But right here, you can kind of see the overview. Level 1's here, level 2, and it's all focused on DOK. DOK is depth of knowledge. And so it's like simple recall, getting the kids all the way up to the creation stage. So it's breaking down their knowledge into these different tiers and steps and making the students really successful. So I'm going to throw this link as well in the private chat for you in case you are interested in learning more about the grid method, or you're like, hey, I need to do this. And I really want to be able to use this in my classroom. So feel free to also explore that as well. Okay, so with that, there's a Google Classroom that kind of is paired with that. And so let me see if I can find it. Oh, I'm in the wrong account. Let me go back. And so what the teachers do is they put students in, and as they travel throughout that grid method, they begin to, again, differentiate their classroom. So right here is an example of the classroom. You go to classwork, you've got your overview. So this is where you would put your videos, your explanation of everything, and then level 1. So all those tasks that go with this level 1 activity go in here. All of the tasks that go for level 2, level 3, level 4, and so on, all are in here. And then your students travel among the class. This is one concept. So if I was teaching fractions, this would just be fractions. Another class might be place value. Another class might be geometry. And so the kids travel between those classrooms, and they might have 5 different classrooms throughout the year, but they're focused on just one concept. So this could, again, help with that organization, that executive functioning that you might want to do. And it can also help with that differentiation as well. Another thing is that class calendar. So if you go in again to Google Classroom, every single classroom has a class calendar. So right here, I'm in my classroom. I'm going to go over to classwork, Google Calendar. Anytime I add an assignment or a due date, it is going to go onto the calendar for my students. I like to use that calendar to really help my students know what is due, what is not due, and all of that different information. So right here is one of my Google Classroom calendars. I also like to go into settings and sharings, and I walk my students through this together, and then I have them turn on notifications. So we go into notifications, and I have them get an email notification because they often miss that pop-up message. And I want them to get an email about 30 minutes before something is due, just to remind them. So that could be another option for you as well, is to set up some of these notifications to help your students kind of control their classroom, control that calendar. And if it's something that might not be in Google Classroom and have a due date, I might go into the calendar and add different due dates or different events that are happening as well, like student birthdays, students, maybe there's a game or a basketball game or some type of activity. I can go into that class calendar and add all of these events for my students. And again, it just helps them manage their time, manage their understanding of what they need to do. Feedback is huge. I did a session with Darren and Ben back in May. So this was like way back in 2020. And we talked about using feedback with students. So we talked about using Mote. We talked about using video. We talked about conferencing one-on-one or small group with students to give them that feedback that they need. And so if you're interested, that session is also available. I know there's so many sessions, so kind of take it slow, but this is only if you want more. But again, we use Mote. There's all these different templates in there. And then also adding a co-teacher. A lot of times if you have a group of students that have a disability, you might have a teacher that is a special education teacher. And that teacher can help you, and you can work together with that teacher to really dig in to what the students need and what skill gaps they might have. And so with Google Classroom, I can post all these different drafts Like this is a draft. The spec ed teacher can go in, she can look at the assignment and make additional notes, make a video, and we're able to co-plan and co-teach together in a virtual environment. And so again, using those drafts and allowing that other teacher to go in, check what's been made, she can make any changes, and all of that kind of stuff can also help as well. Now we're going to talk more about Google Docs. So with Google Docs, independence. So we were talking about a little bit earlier. Students can be on their own Google Doc. I can be commenting with them, and they don't need to sit next to me. They can have that independence of being on their own. Nobody else in the classroom might know we're having a conversation through text message, but that can just help your students have that independence. I can go in and I can make little comments off to the side. I could add mo comments if I wanted to, and the students can just put on their headphones and listen to those comments, or they can read those comments and make those corrections as they might need to. Hyperlinks. I can add additional hyperlinks into these different documents and have my students explore more. Or, hey, do you know what this is, a volcano? Because a lot of times, for example, living in Ohio, there's not an ocean nearby us. So a lot of my students really struggled with, well, what does the ocean look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? And because they never have gone to the ocean, they didn't have that background knowledge. And so when I was asking them to write about the ocean, they didn't know how to be descriptive. They didn't know what to write because they've never been there. And so in the directions, I can add, watch this video, or go here in virtual reality to the beach. And then they can say, oh my gosh, the sun set just like this. The waves were moving, you know, the sound of the waves, the color of the waves was like this bluish color, you know, they can add all of this description, and then their writing went way up. And that's all because they had a lack of background knowledge. So sometimes we got to think about that too. Some students have never been to some of these places for whatever reason. And so how can we add and help them with these different things as well? Voice typing. So if you're in a Google Doc, you can go up here to Tools, Voice Typing. You can hit this little red button, and it's going to read everything that I'm saying right now. And then the students can use that to help them as well, just getting their thoughts out. A lot of students have a lot of going on in their brain. They just don't know how to communicate it. So what I tell them is, hey, turn that on and just talk to me. Just talk it out, and then it will type what they're saying. And then they can go back and reorganize and use some of the different writing structures to help them with that writing as well. Google Translate. This is really cool. So in Tools, if you go down to Translate Document, you can change this to any language that is available in here. So let's go ahead and let's do Japanese. Translate. And it's going to translate this document, the whole thing, into Japanese. And I don't know how accurate this is because all I speak is English, but it could be, again, helpful for some of your students that might be EL or from a different area, and their language might not be English or whatever first. So that could be another option too. And then spelling and grammar. So having that spell check and that grammar check on here can really, again, just make students feel comfortable, safe, and they've got something that can help them as they're trying to look at different things or whatever they're trying to do. And then up here, again, if you want more, there is this awesome Hyperdoc, and this was created by Nick. And you can go here, you can click all these different links, and it's going to help you. Suggesting edits, using insert images, all of these things can help your students with disabilities. And so again, if you want to explore more, there is a ton of resources here. You just kind of travel around the board and you can learn more. So like action items, maybe that would help your students. Maybe using Google Keep in your Google Doc, that could help. And so again, there's just all these different things, and he broke it up by levels. So this is like a level 1. It's pretty easy to do, all the way to level 3, like more advanced skills. So again, I would probably work with my students, say, okay, let's sit down. Let's talk about what's going to help you. And then we can kind of customize their Google Doc training as well. Next up is Google Slides. So I love Google Slides. It's probably one of my favorite G Suite tools, but same thing as Google Docs. All of those features will work. And same with Google Slides. They're kind of, you have all of these features available. Control F. So if I'm in my slide deck and I hit Command F, I can search whatever I might want to search. So let's do U. It shows me that that U word is in here 7 times. And if I use these arrows, it's going to take me and it's going to highlight exactly where that U is. So like, here we go. U right there. U over here. There's U in the speaker notes. There's another U, right? There's YouTube. And it can just help students find things faster. Again, this tool works on websites. It works on anything. So I love to just teach kids how to use this tool so that they can search for more resources a lot quicker. So they just type in that keyword and it will pop up and help them find it a lot faster. The Explore tool. So down here, using that Explore tool, they can search whatever they need to search. And it's like a mini web browser in the corner of their screen. So if I'm searching about dogs, there we go. I get an image. I get a little bit more. And there's all these different websites I can look at. If I need an image, I can go to Images, Drive. So this can be another tool for your students, is using that Explore tool that is built into Google Slides. Multimedia. So using multimedia. So you can kind of see here, I've got videos on this slide. I've got text. So lots of different things are happening for my students to be successful. So you're just adding maybe videos, text. You might be adding audio notes. You could be adding images, hyperlinks. All of those things can really help your students as they're learning new and different concepts in their classroom. Voice typing, though, in Google Slides only works in the speaker notes. So just remember that. It doesn't work on the document, but what I tell my students is write your thoughts on the speaker notes, and then we can copy and paste them up, or we can retype them to make it more of a presentation type of feel. And then break down your multi-step directions into steps. So here is a template. Feel free to make a copy of these templates. But anytime you give students multi-step directions, they're going to probably struggle, and that's all students. I mean, I've been teaching, for almost 8 years, and I've got students that really do struggle. I've got adults that struggle with when we give them multi-step directions. So I like, again, adding video, and then you can type out step 1, step 2, step 3. Here is another example using math. And again, if you want any of these resources, I usually put all of the resource links in the description. So if you click this link, it will take you to the template. Again, feel free to make a copy, use the template, but this one is like fractions. I've got my video here, and I want the students to watch step 1 in the video. So they're going to open up the video. It's time stamped, and they're going to watch step 1. So they go over here and click step 1. They're going to watch just step 1. As they're watching step 1, this is printed off for them, and they have to find the common denominator. So I've taken the steps of adding fractions and broke it down into multiple mini steps for my students. So again, step 1 is find the common denominator. That's all they're doing in this box. Step 2, they're going to then, whatever they do to the bottom, they're going to do it to the top. Step 3, they're going to solve it. Then they're going to rewatch the whole video again and solve this whole problem. This allows me as a teacher, I could do different check-ins with them. Like, okay, after you do step 1, I want you to come up with me, meet with me, small group, and I want to look over your information. So I can do that with my students. Okay, you're good. You can go to step 2. Then students go to step 2. They watch the video. They practice that skill. I, again, can check it really quickly with this other example. And then step 3 and so on. And then step 4 is then putting all of those steps together. So just remember that something that might seem really easy for us, especially during COVID, I realized, and was reflecting on this, I was asking like somebody to attach a document. I didn't realize how many clicks it was until like I was talking them through it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so many steps. And so I think too, if we can break any of these steps down into like simpler steps, we'll see more success as well. YouTube. Okay, YouTube is probably my new favorite. Like, I love Google Slides and I love YouTube. I've seen so many different accessibility features, and I've got teachers, that will upload videos to Drive. Drive's great, but it doesn't have the YouTube accessibility features that it could have. And so in YouTube, you can add closed captions. So let's go ahead and let's go to a YouTube video. So right here, I can go over here and click the CC, and I've got my closed captions on. I can move my closed captions wherever I want them in the video. Okay, and then I can kind of watch and listen as it's happening. And that really does help that comprehension, and it allows students to learn some new words that they might not have known it was spelled that way. So again, that closed captions can help. And I like to, again, if I'm showing a video whole group, I like to just click it and kind of have it available to my students. If it's not whole group, I like to teach them how to use it. And again, it's just a click of a button, but it can be really nice. Another thing is that playback speed. So with playback speed, if I am on my YouTube video, I can go into settings, playback speed, and I can have it go really fast, or I can have it slow down. Slowing it down can really help your students that have English as their second language or another language as their second language to really just slow down, and they can really take in what is happening. So that could help out too. Screencastify using that draw tool. So I don't know how many of you love Screencastify, but up here is that extension, another extension, and I can hit record. And I also like to turn on these drawing tools. So more options, drawing tools. As I'm going over my students' work, I can be using Screencastify, and I can go down here to this pen tool, and I can be circling, explaining what I'm thinking. I can add different stickers like, oh, I love this. This is fantastic. And I can add all these fun little stickers all over the board. I can also go in here and add the rectangle to kind of help too. I can change the colors of these different things. I can change the colors of pretty much anything. And then I can also clear the whole page. And so when I'm giving students directions or feedback, I can use these tools to help me as I'm going through those videos as well. And then I can also have the students explain through video. So my students, they might be doing a project. Just like with Moat, how they could use their audio features, I could have them use video. So again, all my students need is this Screencastify extension. They click it, they can do a screencast and explain what is happening and what's going on in their learning and in their brain. Because a lot of times students have a difficult time explaining what's going on up here to paper. So they can just talk it out, and then I can help them organize that idea onto paper. And then they can create, again, videos by skill. So we talked about here on this step-by-step video, I can help my students and I can have them go step by step by step and adding those timestamps in to really help them and guide them in their learning. So that way they know, okay, what did I need to learn? What was it that I was trying to do? And then they can go back to whatever step they might be struggling with. So again, the students can go back and re-talk about any skills that they might be struggling with that they need more assistance on. And there's a video of just that step. So they don't need to watch the whole video. And then right here, I did a session on YouTube. So if you want to learn more about YouTube or how to use it, everything is, again, time-stamped. And so you can kind of see like, oh, I need help with creating content. I talk about like what makes a really good video and like talking about weeding out information, talking about all that kind of stuff, going over here, talking about copyright. So again, if you need any of those help, all of this is available for you as well as you need it. So all of those recordings are there for you. Google Chrome. So we did talk about bookmarks up here. You can kind of see up here, I like to use the favicons. So when I go into a bookmark like this one, for example, and I hit edit, I can delete the text and I can just have that symbol. For Slack, I can go in here and edit and take away Slack and just use that symbol. We talked about using these different icons as well up here. And if I go in here to edit, I can get rid of this whole text, and you can even add emojis. So if I again hit emojis, I can see that this is a Google slide but it's also got these emojis. So I know what that means. So we can use those different emojis in our bookmarks bar to really help us as well. So just teaching students how to create folders in their bookmarks bar, how to rename things, how to organize things so that it fits their needs can really, really help. So you can kind of see how I've got these different things. I've got just my favicons up here to really help and organize those bookmark bars. Okay, this one's a really cool one too. If I go into like just google.com, anywhere there's the waffle, I can click it and I can move these around. And so let's say, for example, I always check my Gmail. I want that first. Then I go to Google Classroom, then Calendar, then Drive. I'm more of a slides person, so I use slides over Google Docs. I use Sheets over Google Docs, Jamboard over Google Docs. I can, again, see how I'm organizing my little icons so I can get to things faster. And again, I just click and I can go, oh, I go to YouTube all the time. That needs to go up. Groups, this needs to go up. This needs to go up. This one can go down. And you can, again, customize your needs for whatever you need for your students. Pinning a tab. So right here, if I right click on this tab, I can hit pin tab and I can't delete it. So my students that often get click happy and try to delete everything, they can't automatically delete something when it's pinned. So that, again, can just help your students when they're feeling overwhelmed or they've got a lot going on. They can, again, pin those tabs that they really need and shouldn't exit out of. Gmail is another great tool to help your students. So right here, it's called templates. If you've never used templates before, you need to. So you can go in and you can customize your own Google templates to fit your needs. On this document, what I have my students do is they copy and paste this message and they make this an email template. So if I go over to Gmail and I go into Compose, I can go in here to the 3 dots and I can go to templates. I've got all of these different templates. So I can go in here and I can pick whatever I need to pick. And there we go. So I say, I'm writing because, and I use these sentence starters to help my students. Sentence starters can really help your students trigger what they're asking, what they're trying to do in an organized way. So again, some of those students that really struggle with putting things in writing, templates and sentence starters can really help. So if I've got my template started in my Gmail, they can go in here and they go, okay, the subject needs to have my name, my class, and my quick subject. There's an example for them. Then in my message, I'm writing because, and then they fill in the blank. So then it also has additional prompts like, what is your question or reason? What is it about your, what is it? Additional details. And then what have you already done? So then my students would say, I've already done restart. I checked Google Classroom. I watched the video. And then they can add any screenshots or error messages that they get as well. And we're just teaching them how to create an email, how to word what they need in a successful and safe environment. And so again, these are just email templates for your students, and they can go in and they can add all of these different comments into their email in their templates. Snoozing emails is another great thing. So right here, I can see that I've got this email and I want to snooze it. So I just click here, snooze until later. I can do 6 p.m., 8 a.m. tomorrow, pick a time. I'm going to do, let's see here, 7 a.m. I'm going to save it. That email is going to come back up at 7 a.m. I can then teach my students, hey, snooze that until you need it. Again, it's an organizational tip that can really just help your students stay organized. Schedule send is another great one as well. So over here in the inbox, I can go to compose. I can send an email to myself. Hello, how are you? And then I can go down here to the little arrow, schedule send. And I can send this tomorrow at whatever time, and I can schedule to send that later. So then my students are kind of thinking about, okay, it's 12 a.m. and I'm working on this assignment and I've got a question for my teacher. I'm going to be respectful and I'm going to send that later. So they can kind of start to think about those different practices as well. Or this question doesn't need to be answered until here, so I'm going to schedule it later. They can also set up those labels in stars. So just like here, they can go up here and star this message. They can unstar it. They can add it to all these different labels as well. So just teaching your students how to be organized with their Gmail can really, really help them as well. Jamboard. So Jamboard is a newer Google app. So it's amazing. And right here, you can see auto draw. So if your students have the Chrome app version of Jamboard, they can use this website. It's called Auto Draw. And right here, you can kind of see, let me go ahead and clear and delete my template. They can change the background. If they click this one, Auto Draw, they can start to draw and look, it changes my thing. So then I can go in and go, oh, I meant a cherry. Oh, I meant this. Oh, I meant this. And they can start to create all these different sketch notes of what they were trying to draw and what they were trying to explain. So again, just getting it out there, out of their brain, and then using this AI type of technology to really help them. And again, this one is built into the Chrome app of Jamboard. It's not on the typical Jamboard. You have to have the app version of it. But if you do want it, it is just autodraw.com. And you can pull it up on the web version of your Mac or wherever you're at. So you could use this as well. And yes, it helps organize those sticky note responses to Jamboard. Handwriting recognition, students can write and then it will take their writing and turn it into text. Again, you need that app version on their Chromebooks in order to do that, but it can just help your students as well. Yes, I love auto draw. It's so much fun. You're able to go in again and just draw. And then you're like, oh, that's what I wanted. And then you can just keep drawing. Brainstorming. So right here, we were talking about sticky notes and how we love sticky notes. I can put the topic right here in the middle of this Jamboard, and then my students can go in and add different ideas around the Jamboard. So you can kind of see here, I've got all these different pages, and my students are just doing like a brain dump of everything that they're learning, what they're doing, and kind of reflecting on that knowledge. And they're able to, again, go in, make any of those corrections that they need to do. And then they can see others' ideas as well. So then they can go, oh, I like what that student said. I'm going to add to it. And so they can add a +1 to that idea. Feedback and reflection. So just giving students feedback. Here's a reflection one. Your students can use this little dot. And then they can go over here and they can go and say, okay, I believe I'm a 5. I believe I am a 1. I am a 3. And they can move this little dot and you're able to have that conversation with them as well. This one, they can go in, they can use the sticky notes or the text tool over here, and they can type what they're struggling with. They can type what they understand, what they're confident with, all these different things to help organize their thoughts and ideas. And again, you're adding that reflection into their class to allow them to become more of a stronger student that can talk and communicate what they're confident in, what they need help in, and all of those different things. Next one is Google Forms. So right here with Google Forms, there's a couple different ways that you can help your students. This one is tracking formative data. And so a lot of times in my classroom, I can call my students up into small groups, and then I can keep track of how they're doing. So here's an example. I'm going to pull these up. And again, if you join that Google group, you have access to all of these additional resources. So make sure you join that Google group to get all of these resources. So here we go. I've got my data. I'm conferencing with my students in my small group setting. Let me go ahead and hit the pencil real quick so I can pull this up. And there's two different versions of this. You've got the Google form, or you could use a spreadsheet. So right here, I would type student 4, and then I can say, okay, student 4 has mastered this assignment. Here's the assignment name. They're progressing on that one. They're limited, and they mastered it. So right here in the middle, I can see patterns. Okay, every single student didn't do well on this assignment. I need to reteach this assignment to my students. I had all the different standards below here. And so then again, I can go and I'm able to say, okay, this is for that standard focus. This one's on fractions. I can call it whatever I want to. And then I can change that drop-down box. I use conditional formatting so I can quickly see and give feedback based on my students as well. So this could just be another way to help your students be able to give them that feedback and kind of track their data so that you're able to help them too. And then this one is the Google Form example. So in here, I can type the assignment, testing. My students have mastered, they're progressing. This one's limited. This one is mastered. Okay, I just met with this. Oh, this one's absent actually. So I can go in here and I can write down whatever I need to. And then I can add notes. Student 2 needs help with step 1. Submit. All that data goes into this Google form right here is our answer for that one. And again, I can see student 1, all of their scores from all of these different assignments. This student is killing it. They have mastered every single assignment I've given them. So what that means is I probably need to start challenging them. I need to make some enrichment activities for that student. Student 2, they're kind of struggling. So I need to talk with this student and really start to differentiate their learning as well. Student 3, they've been absent, they've been progressing. They need a little bit more assistance as well. And so again, I'm looking at this data and I can start to help and scaffold for my students based on their patterns and based on their needs. So as I'm again conferencing with students or walking around the room, I can quickly just check how they're doing, and then it just submits and it keeps all that data organized for me. I set up conditional formatting so that way it's ready to go. And there's a video on this website if you are interested in learning more about how to set this up for your own classroom, or you can use my templates as well. They're all right here to make a copy, and you can kind of see all those different examples too. Another thing with Google Forms is documenting IEP data. So right here, I've got my basic reading goal. So this is like students that need to read these words, and I can just track the data. So again, I'm using Google Forms. I'm going to check it if they get it wrong, and then I can add whatever words they missed. I can write their score, and I can talk about whatever kind of things that I need to do as well. So that could be fun too. Surveys. So just using surveys to get to know my students. I can send them Google Form surveys. I can also send my parents surveys. So if I have like a meeting with the parent, I can send them a survey as well to gather some information about them, and then use this information to really start to personalize some of this instruction. If they love baseball, why not find a book about baseball? If they love soccer, find a video that has to do with it. You know, ask them, how was your soccer game? How was whatever? And you can do all this different kinds of stuff. And then students can also be asking questions. So right here, let's see if it will load. And maybe your students are really shy. Your students don't want to ask questions out loud. And so right here, this Google form, it's like a daily check-in. How are you feeling today? And then it takes them down, would you rather? So let me know in the chat, would you rather be given $1,000 right now or be given $5 or $50 a month for your entire life? So which one would you rather have? Let us know in the chat. Would love to hear your response. And then here, you can kind of just see here, the kids can go in, they can pick what they need help with. They can say how they're feeling. And then if they keep scrolling down, they can just add more text. And again, this is all throughout a Google form. So your students, they come in and they fill this out. They don't need to say it out loud, but hey, maybe they need a teacher check-in, or hey, this happened last night. I just want you to be aware, but I don't want attention towards it. They can communicate that with you, and you're able to go in and kind of help them as well. And then just scaffolding ideas. So right here, there's just some additional ideas on how to scaffold for your students. This one right here is sound on, sound off. And again, if you go into the YouTube description, there's the resource, so you can make a copy of this. And what I can do is you can go in and you can turn off the video sound. So that's the first step of the strategy. As students are watching a video, they have the audio turned off. They're just looking at the pictures. They're just looking at what the video is showing them. Then they take notes. So again, the video is off. They take notes. You play a timer for about a minute. So they're taking notes. They're watching that timer. The minute goes off. they go back to the video, rewatch the video with the sound on. Some of your students need to watch the video twice, especially your English as a second language learners. They need that sound off because there's a lot going on in the video. There's a lot of different visuals. There's a lot of different words happening in that video. Because of that, they need to be able to watch that video and be able to learn with it. So again, they rewatch it with the sound on, and then they play that timer for again another minute, and they take notes. In between these two notes, they're doing a think, pair, share, and they are talking with other students what they learned, what they saw, what they thought. And then they're talking and they're going, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, didn't think about that idea. And then they can add more to their notes as they're having those conversations as well. Another thing is data notebooks. So just tracking students' data. There's a lot of data that we do in schools today. And so you can kind of see this notebook right here. We use a platform, it's called iReady. And my students can go in and they are able to highlight how their scores are. So they can go in here, use the paint bucket, and they can start to track their data. They're able to see their growth, which can help their confidence as well. So again, they can go in, track their data, write down their scores. They can put areas where they need to focus on. And then here's the fall one. Here is the spring one, and all of these different things that they can do. And this is, again, just a nice data binder for the students. It has their accommodations, like I need this. I need to use a calculator. I need a graphic organizer. And again, you're creating those advocates for their learning. So they can go in and they're able to really focus on what do I need to be successful in this classroom? Because that is a skill that they're going to need when they grow up and get older. Timers. So just setting a timer can help students. I just need you to work on this activity for 15 minutes, and you set that timer and your students just work on that activity for 15 minutes. So that could be another helpful activity. And on my YouTube channel, I've got so many different timers with music, but you can also silence them if you want to. And so again, if you just go in here, you click 15 minutes, you can find that timer. If you want, right here is those chapters with those timestamps, and I can go, oh, I need a 9-minute timer. Oh, I need a 5-minute timer. And these timers are customized, they're universal. And then you can go, oh, 2 more minutes. And then you can just change those timers as well to fit your needs. And again, that's using those chapters. And then again, you just go in and you can go, oh, 4 minutes. And then your students can begin to work on that activity. Edu Protocols. I don't know if you've heard of Edu Protocols, but these are great. There's a YouTube video here, and I've created a bingo board. Edu Protocols are a lot of fun. So like right here, let me go ahead and open this up. What you do is this is for teachers. So this is, again, for teachers to use. Students will read 5 Edu Protocols. And so what that is Edu Protocols are a book. There's 3 different books currently, and they're working on a couple other ones, but they're quick. They're engaging strategies to use in your classroom. And so one of the Edu Protocols that I love to use is called Number Mania. Right here on Number Mania, students brainstorm their facts, they create an infographic, and then they share it. So you can kind of see some of these different infographics here. It's scaffold on the side. There's all these icons, and all you have to do is have your students drag and drop those icons over. And then you can see how many children people have, the years that they've been in education, years as a librarian, all of these different facts about people. And it's just adding. So they could do this about any type of topic that they wanted to create. And there are so many different resources on Edu Protocol that if you search Twitter, #Edu Protocols, I would highly suggest getting the books. They are so good. And if you need additional help, reach out to me, send me a DM on Twitter, and I'd be more than happy to connect and work with you on this activity. Another one with Edu Protocols that is really, really good is Thin Slides. Thin Slides is like the hook of Edu Protocols. So with Thin Slides, it's a 5-minute total activity. That's it. So 5 minutes total, and that is it. And what happens is you have a topic. So for example, this topic is one word that describes next school year. Okay, so that is the topic. And all the students do is they put one slide, one word, one image, and that's it. So they go to one slide, they have one word and one image. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's your exit ticket. That's what you can do as your unit. If you're talking about fractions, hey, let's do a thin slide. What's one word, one image about fractions? They could do pizza. They could do whatever they wanted to do, denominator as their word. And then after your students have 3 minutes to create this, they share for about 5 seconds. Okay, so again, one word, one image. Your students would say, oh, I'm so excited about this school year. The next student goes, the next student goes, the next student goes, and so on until you're all done with all your slides and all your students have finished. So again, that could be a really great way to see what your students are thinking. And it's just, again, one word and one image on a slide. I often hit the present button because when you hit the present button, it saves exactly after those 3 minutes. And your students, they have to present whatever they have on their slide for those 3 minutes. So if this student, for example, is not done, I'm like, okay, well, what does your blank screen mean? And then they're like, well, that wasn't on my slide. And I'm like, well, you had 3 minutes. And so the next time they work a lot faster, a lot quicker. And again, it's just getting that formative data for your students. Edu Protocols are really good for students with disabilities because they're reps. They keep on happening until the student is successful. So again, check these out. If you want more resources, let me know. I know I'm throwing a lot at you. I'm like an overshare, so I apologize for that. But I just want you to be aware that all of these resources are out there for you. And on my YouTube channel, I've got so many resources as well on Edu Protocols too. But that is like the one that you want to try first is thin slides. And then blended learning. So blended learning is a great way to help your students with learning differences. So on here, this is a video, and I'm just showing you like a choice board can really help. Giving students choices. They might not be good at creating a digital photo, but they really are good at creating a photo bento. So your students can go and, yes, information overload. I'm really, really sorry. But over here, they can go in and they can create and explore all these different resources. And we create together. So if you want to learn more about station rotation or the grid method, all of that is in this video as well. And again, blended learning, it just creates those smaller learning communities in your classroom so that students can be successful. They have a small group that they can count on. You can provide better personalized feedback for your students. So that can be helpful as well for your students. And here you go. You can see right here, this is a choice board on exit tickets. I don't care which one they do, but they need to do one. So they can do Q&A, they could do a thin slides, they can do let's go. I don't care as long as they do one of them and they get to pick which one they want to do. And then knowing their IEP right here, it just takes them through and it uses Autocrat. So right here, they can use this Google form and the students can just kind of talk about their IEP and have that conversation about what they need, what their needs are. And an IEP in America is Individual Education Plan. And so again, the students are creating, what do I need to be successful in this classroom? And so it's just a plan to help them organize, what do I need, again, to be successful? And then using Autocrat, they have this plan written out so they know how to help and talk through what they need as well. Getting kids to create. This is a would you rather board. So I love adding creation into the classroom. Here's a slide deck. Again, feel free to make a copy. Students could create a screencast or an infographic, giving students 2 topics and then having them pick which one they would rather do. Would you rather create a screencast or would you rather do an infographic? You get 2 options. You get to pick what you want to do. And you can kind of see some of these fun examples down here of the students that have created these activities. So that could be another option for you as well. And then Wakelet for researching. I know earlier we talked about Wakelet in the chat. And so you can create a Wakelet board. Let me go ahead and go to Wakelet. And on Wakelet, like right here, I've got research. I can break down my Wakelet collections into like different categories. So if I'm writing a paper and I want to help organize my students' research, I can have them use Wakelet to really help with that. So here I've got tools for EdTech. That's going to be one part of my body paragraph. In the classroom is going to be another one. IDA is going to be another topic. And then as I'm finding resources, I can just add them to my Wakelet. And then once I'm ready to do my writing or my essay or whatever, I just go to that collection and I can review all of those different documents that I might need for my students to be successful. And so again, I'm just breaking it down into different categories for my students to be successful into their writing. And we're using a tool called Wakelet to help with that, which is really exciting. And then our last thing for today is we're going to talk about leveling up. So real quick, we've learned a lot. I know I'm an oversharer, but a lot of you are like, oh, I'm going to have to go back and rewatch. Yes. Go back, rewatch, take your time, explore all these different resources. But now let's talk about leveling up your lessons. So now that you've learned all of these different tools, strategies, and I know it's overwhelming, but again, take it slow. Use one strategy at a time. All I wanted was for you to learn one thing and take it and use it tomorrow to help you with your students. And then as you master that, come back to this video, rewatch, pick up another strategy, try that one in your classroom. Okay, so I know it's so much, but yes, just pick it up, use one at a time. And if you need help, reach out to me on Twitter or wherever you can find me, and feel free to join my sessions on Gold EDU as well. Okay, so if you're recording using video, this is how you can level up your videos. You can use closed captions. So on your videos, if I've got a video, one way you can just level up is throwing it into YouTube. Let's go to this one right here. And here's a good video on Edu Protocols if that sparked your interest. This one's really, really good. It's hands-on, it's exciting. So feel free if you're trying to learn more about Edu Protocols, this one is really good. So right here with CC, that's one way I can level up. Another way is that playback speed. So teaching my students, hey, go in here, playback speed, slow it down. Okay, I can have them do that. Another thing is using those annotations. In Google Slides, I have a lot of teachers that love to use Google Slides when they're presenting. So right here, you can see this was maybe my slide. That's a lot for students to take in. There's a lot of text. I need to scaffold this so it's not so overwhelming. So one way you can do that is .1, add .2, add .3, add .4. Everything comes in as I'm talking about it. So for example, in this video, we're going to talk about closed captions. To do so, you are going to do this. And then I walk through how to do it with my students. Now we're going to talk about the playback speed. Breaking it up into smaller portions for your students to see on the screen or building it up can help them as well. They're just focused on that one word that's on the screen. Another thing that you could do right here is I would take away maybe these ones. And then I come here and I am going to do another one of that 4. And it's just duplicating the slide and I'm just replacing it. I'm going to get rid of this dot and then I'm going to get rid of these dots. And then I'm going to add another one. I'm going to now get rid of this one, and this one. So this is just another way that you could organize it. Closed captions, playback speed, teachers using annotation. So you just kind of go through all of those different resources as well. Videos with notes are also huge. You can see right here, we've got the video on the slide, and then your students can take notes. They're making the video interactive because they have the notes on this side. Here's another one. They've got the video. They can type their answers into this document. And so here again, video, type their response, video, type their response. So that could be another great way as well. If you needed just some ideas on how to incorporate video with the interaction piece. There's so much research on having the video in the same slide deck side by side or using that extension Duelist right here, that one that splits our screen. So that way students can remember, what am I looking for? What are those questions? They don't have to go back and forth between tabs. Have everything on the same screen or split the screen so that they have both screens on that same tab can really help your students and level up when you're using video with your instruction. Adding screenshots to a Google slide. Okay, whenever you add a screenshot to a Google slide, sometimes students can't read it. Okay, if there's text on there, the tools won't pick it up. It's a screenshot. So you either need to use audio and record your voice of what that screenshot is or review it as a whole group. So just don't put a screenshot on there. Either add audio to give explanation or read it to the students, or just review that as a whole group, because sometimes those screen readers will not read that visual of the image at this moment. I feel like with technology that could quickly change, but just kind of remember that students really do struggle with that if you have any other things as well. Reading to yourself. So when students read to yourself, there's a couple different strategies you could do, and you could level up with this activity. So Edpuzzle is a great tool. So Edpuzzle is fantastic. I've got 2 teachers that are incredible. What they do is they use Edpuzzle. And so on here, you can see this teacher, and she's talking to her students. Okay, she's talking to her students about the chapter. Then she's pausing the book, and she's, again, going over everything with closed reading. She's explaining all of the different concepts. Once she does that, she's now reading the book. So you can see her in the corner. She's reading the book. It's just a black screen. She's adding visuals to help her students with the difficult concepts. So right here, she's got the ambulance playing in the background. She's then adding movie clips to help them understand that this character, he just went to the hospital. And again, some of your students have never been to the hospital. And so what does that look like? What does it feel like? Is it stressful? Yes, it's stressful. And so she adds these little video clips in as the reading is happening to help her students visualize the text. And this has shown a huge engagement, and it's also helped her students in so many different ways. And you can see her right here. She's just talking with her students. She's teaching to them in this Edpuzzle video. She read it to them, she pauses it, and then she's now teaching her kids what's going on. Amazing example right here. And again, all of those resources are in this slide deck. And she is just incredible, and she's using that data to help drive the instruction as well. Epic. This is a great tool for students that might need some books. There's some read aloud books. Same with Sora. It's just like Epic, where you can find books that have audio. And so your students can listen along as they're having things read to them. You can also record audio files of different things that students need to read. And again, having that audio file can help your students learn as well. Giving verbal directions. And so students can use icons. They can use a back channel. If the students have questions, they can use that back channel to ask these different questions using a Google form, their name, if they need help, any questions they have. And then they can also use a tracking sheet. So right here, I go over this tracking sheet. And again, you'll just pick one of these options. It's just based on your preference, but your students add their name. They can change their color for how they're doing and what they need help with. If they have any questions or anything like that, they can ask that on this tracking sheet. So again, every single student is on that sheet, and you're able to have them use drop downs to explain how they're doing, where they need help with, and you can kind of track how they're doing on each lesson as well. Classroom Q is a really good one as well. So right here, you can sign up as a teacher. It has a free version, but there's also a paid version. And what you do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to log in. I'm going to sign in with Google. And it creates a line for your students. So if you go to Classroom Q, I'm going to have you guys go. So right here, I've got my website. Let me throw this into the chat for you guys. And I want you to click Students, okay? So I'm going to go over to my other account, and I'm going to go to classroomq.com. And I want you guys to do this with me. Click Students. Type in your name. You're going to type in that class code. So that class code is right here. And so it's OCEZSB. So your students, they type in their name, the class code, and then they hit OK. Once they hit OK, they can click this button if they need help. So I need help. And then over on my board, I can see my name up here and as the teacher, and I can call my students up. Okay, I can see that there's 2 helps. I can see I'm second in line. If I don't need help anymore and I figured it out, I can hit cancel, and it goes off of the teacher's board. So again, I can have this up on my screen and I can call students up as they need help. And I'm creating them that environment to, again, advocate for their own needs. And I can check in with them. They can also add comments. So maybe they need to say, hey, I need to use the restroom. I can just say, yes, you can go and use the restroom. Okay, so feel free to give that a try. Add to that class list if you think you might enjoy that. And then here's this tracking sheet. Again, I type all my students on this tracking sheet right here. And then my students can use this drag down and they can say, hey, I need help. Can you check me? I'm good. And then over here, they can say they're working. They can say that they're finished with these activities. And I can really start to see, okay, where are my students at? This student hasn't started yet. I'm going to call him back and I'm going to work with him. So just another idea on how you could organize your classroom as well. And there you go. We can see Jonas just joined our classroom queue. And I can again say, okay, I'm done with Stephanie. It's going to be Jonas's turn. And I just would hit this X and there's Jonas. I can create video references with those timestamps. So creating a video of all of those different tools that my students might need. I can set up agendas for my students so they know what is expected from me. And there's just so many different templates in here. So feel free to use one of these templates, but you can kind of see here, here's the agenda. Here's my unit and objective. Here's the virtual work. Here's all the reminders. Here's another example if you want more. So again, just setting up the tone for the class, giving the students overview for what is expected, and then they're able to go in, look over these agendas, and start to really understand what they're supposed to do and what the expectation is for the school day. And then if you want more, I'm sure I've overwhelmed you guys all, but feel free, again, follow me on Twitter, follow Gold EDU LLC, join us on YouTube and subscribe. Check out our Google group. Make sure you join this Google group for resources. Also, check out the Facebook group if you want. I try to post things that's happening as well. So feel free to join our Facebook group as well. And thank you so much for having me today. I've enjoyed my time. And if you have questions or need help, please reach out to me. I would love to assist you. So any way that I can be an assistant, let me know. Rewatch this video because I know it's a lot and I know I can be an overshare, but I just love that you guys were able to join today and really start to focus in on how you're going to differentiate for your students this upcoming school year.
Just that, thank you. And yeah, okay. And again, I think I can share the sentiments of our teachers, Steph. No, we are like overwhelmed, mind blown, but not in a bad way, definitely in a good way. And I like how you phrased it earlier, that we're surfacing all of this information. And indeed, no, I have shared your YouTube channel as well as all other resources where they can get the resource, mostly in the YouTube channel. Okay. For them to be able to access them again later on. Okay, so hopefully again, teachers, do follow and subscribe to the channel of Miss Howell, so that you'll be able to take advantage of all the many resources that Miss Howell is offering us. And again, these are all for free, and you can actually download, make a copy of all of this easily. So thank you so much, Miss Howell and Steph, okay, for the sharing. Again, we're overwhelmed, but we're positively overwhelmed in a way. So before we go into some questions, maybe admin's insights or questions for Steph, Teacher Pau, Teacher Angelo.
Hi, Miss Steph. So again, for the third time, I share the same sentiment as that of our audience. Even before you've mentioned it, I already confessed to Sir Franco that I will be team replay as well for this one so that I can really follow everything that you have shared. Actually, what you have just shared, I think, are not only on our concept of students with educational needs. Rather, these are tools and apps that are useful for students for the different kinds of struggles that they are into. So thanks for surfacing that. No, so with all this, I just have a question with you. No, I
Yeah.
just have a question. with all these apps, I don't know how long you were able to collate everything and how many instances you were able to use all of this. My question is, what was the most challenging struggle of a student that you had to work with, and what did you do to address it?
So my biggest struggle was probably students with behavior issues. And so what I did is built relationships, and that takes time. And so I can't say it was really pretty at the beginning, but it was just building those relationships, building that partnership with the parents, and just kind of using some of these different strategies as well, like a timer. That's so simple, but just setting a timer and say, okay, work on this activity for 15 minutes, and then we can go do this. Using that do this and then this kind of language with the student helped as well.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Steph.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
Marcelo?
Again, Steph, thank you for the wonderful presentation. Very seamless, as we are talking about in the admin or with the admins. I like the way that you phrase it, that try one, then master it and go to the next one. So yes, it may be overwhelming at this point because of the so many things that we can actually try. But at the same time, it's good to just have one and then move to the next one. My question may be related to Miss Pau's question, but now in relation to the administrators, because of course there are many things that we want to try, but sometimes we feel that there might be no support. How do you go about that?
Um, well, every kid is different. That's why I think there's so many different strategies, because what works with one kid or one teacher doesn't work with everybody. And so you've got to figure out what works for you and then dig deeper. So some of those links and strategies were just an idea. Take those, and if you really loved it, go deeper. Now, with admin support, I think it's just communicating with them. I think a lot of times it's a miscommunication. And so just talking with them like, hey, I'm doing this, and knowing your why. I'm doing this because it helps the student focus. I'm using this tracking sheet because I want my student to be successful. I am meeting with small groups because I'm able to have that one-on-one personalized feedback, and I'm seeing growth with that. So just having those conversations and providing that why of why you're doing things.
Thank you about that.
Thank you, Miss Steph. No, again, ako naman, for me, Miss Steph, no, my question would be, will we know how to start? By knowing our students, knowing their differences, learning styles, preferences, and getting from there, as again, no, as we've learned from a design thinking approach. But how do we sustain it? We can see how passionate you were earlier in your sharing and all the strategies that you've been using, but in terms of like starting, maybe we can start promote inclusive education, accessibility, but how do we sustain that kind of support for our students?
I think it's when you see that success of your students, and it might not be pretty at the beginning, but once you do see that success, you're like, oh, I can do this. I can keep doing this because I'm seeing them grow and improve. And yeah, it is a lot of work up front, like setting up some of these things. But just know, like, if you set up that tracking grid, you can use that all year. File, make a copy, file, make a copy. And you can just reuse some of these different strategies and templates the whole year. So yes, it's a lot at the beginning, but once you learn it, once you master it, it becomes really, really easy. And sometimes it saves you time in the long run.
Thank you so much. Now, teachers, now, by the way, we're asking questions while we're waiting for your questions. But Miss Howell, what we have in the comment section right now are thank you and appreciation to all the things that you have shared. Okay, maybe before we get near to the conclusion and to the end of our session for today, Miss Howell, let me ask this just one more question because it will definitely bother me and it will not make me sleep tonight. When we talk about application of this accessibility and inclusion and education, it's like whatever that you've been doing, how do you manage it in a way that it will not actually promote exclusion and stigma to those that are being classified as like differently abled or have a different learning styles?
I think you make the classroom culture. So how are you going to make your classroom culture? I definitely am a huge believer of inclusion. So having those students in that inclusion setting. And again, we talked about, the garage door and all of those different things that are for physical disabilities, but they help me. And so just creating that learning culture of, hey, if you need read aloud, everybody can use it. If you need this feature, everybody can use it. Or, hey, that kid's using this feature because they need that, and you might need something else. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, and it's a pro if you know what yours are and you know how to get around it or how to use technology to help. And that was me. 18 years I struggled and I felt that barrier between me and those typical peers. I had a huge confidence issue. And honestly, when I went to Google Innovator, it changed my entire life. If it wasn't for Google Innovator, I think I would still have some self-confidence issues and just trying to get over, I can't write, I can't read. No, I can. I just need to use the tools to help me. And that's okay that I need the tools where someone else doesn't. But somebody else might have another struggle where they need certain tools, but I am like a pro at it, And so it's using that community. And with Google Innovator, I met so many incredible individuals that helped me. Like my writing is really weak. And so I can go to like Abbott or Leslie and I'm like, hey, can you read this for me? And they're like in there, they're making corrections and they don't judge me because I struggle. They're like, yes, because you helped me with this other activity. You helped me with organizing this event. So I'm going to take the time to help you. And that is what the Google Innovator community is. And so you need to apply because that's where you're going to find your people. And that's where I found my people. And that's where I found my confidence because before this, it was a silent disability. People didn't know I had dyslexia because I hid it really, really well. And then after Innovator, I was like, I don't care who knows. I don't care who knows my struggles because it makes me a stronger individual. I'm a hard worker because I have that disability. And I think that's what we need to teach our kids is you have these disabilities, but they're also your superpower. Just because you might really struggle with something doesn't mean anything. Like you can do whatever you put your mind towards. You can use use all these different supports, technology, people, resources to really help you grow. And that's what I had to do for myself. And honestly, I did not have the environment when I was younger. My parents were probably my only environment that helped and supported me. I had teachers, they were okay, but a lot of it was direct instruction. Which wasn't the way that I learned. I needed somebody one-on-one going step by step, showing me some scaffolds to help me. And so that's my mission. That's my goal for education is to create a learning environment that is good for every single student. And that might look different from classroom to classroom. That might look different from teacher to teacher, but every single student is growing and learning. And we all have struggles. So I think just creating that classroom environment and just having those open conversations and sharing, because I hid it for, over 20 some years. I hid this disability and I could have done so much with it to share my story and to share how I have overcame some of those hard times in my life because of it. So yeah, it's just creating that classroom culture. Sorry for that long answer.
Yes. And you said it well, no, Miss Howell, no? And we're proud of you. You're a rock star. You're awesome. You're great, no? And teachers, okay, in the audience, no, admins, okay, who wants to be in Miss Howell's class? I am sure into my Miss Howell's class. I would like to enroll to be part of Miss Howell's class, no? So, Miss Howell, just to end, of course, we'd like to also give you a rest. It's already, we have a different time zone. But before we let you go, I would like to present this very simple token of appreciation to show our appreciation for sharing your expertise and your time, your valuable time. I know we know you're busy and you're doing all of these things, okay, but we'd like to show this. Teacher Pa, would you like to do the honor of reading our citation?
Of course, I would be very much privileged to present the certificate of appreciation to Miss Stephanie Howell for sharing her knowledge and expertise in the recently concluded webinar, entitled Google Workspace for Education Accessibility Features, awarded on August 12, 2021, to be signed by the administrators of Kaagapay, Sir Jambi Santos, myself, Sir Jello Malyari, and Mr. Franco Nicolo Adun. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing these gold resources.
You're
And
welcome.
I'm sure the teachers have been saying that they really wanted to go back and dig deep and get to that hands-on training of all these applications that we actually shared. Thank you so much, Miss Stephanie.
Yes, thank you guys so much.
Miss Steph, we know you've said a lot already, but we'd like to ask for one last short message no, for all the teachers here in the Philippines, okay? With regards to, well, in general, in distance learning and also about inclusive education.
So I think just focus on the students. Put the students first and really figure out what they need, build those relationships, and then from there, you're going to be successful.
Thank you, Miss Steph. And with that, now we'll bid goodbye now to Miss Steph. And again, no, let's show our appreciation in the chat and send her our greetings and our appreciation. Thank you, Miss Steph, again. And we'll say goodbye now. Thank you. Maraming
Bye,
salamat.
guys.
In
Thank you.
Filipino, maraming salamat. Okay, our next speaker.
Is sir. Is a faculty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Galing.
so before tayo siguro mag-end, no, share lang muna ulit natin, no. Grabe, it's like so much things to learn. Like Miss Howell took like that much information in like a matter of 1 hour and a half, okay? And I don't know how she did it. No, paano niya ginawa yon? By the way, teachers, hindi pa yan simula pa lang po tayo, no, ng
Oh,
ating
diba?
August series, pero kitang-kita naman natin teachers, no, simulang-simula pa lang pero pasabog na kagad ang ating pasimula ng ating August series. Okay, we'll be following that up on August 14, strategies and approaches in mainstreaming or including differently abled students. No? And of course, followed up on August 19, Microsoft Office 365 accessibility features naman tayo. So pumunta naman tayo sa ating kabilang kampo. At sinisigurado ko sa inyo teachers, no, magugulat din kayo sa dami ng accessibility features ni Microsoft Office 365. Yung mga alam yung tools na madalas yung ginagamit, hindi pala talaga yun built, no, it was built primarily for inclusion. Okay, magugulat kayo for that, no? And of course, excited na for this one. On August 21, one of our administrators, he will be taking on solely and individually this session, okay, differentiated
Kaya na
learning,
yan.
addressing different learning styles and preferences. Okay? Although mathematics, no, were already said by Miss Steph earlier, we're discussing by Miss Steph, we will now go a little bit closer to our context, no, in the context in the Philippines, especially taking into account all other accessibility problems in our country. And of course, Sir Jello will be leading the discussion together with Sir Regan Austria on August 26, EdTech Playlist Tools for Accessibility and Inclusion. The last session, you don't really need to attend that anymore. We can forego with that session. But just in case you're interested, we will conclude our August series on low bandwidth education. How do we navigate now in limited connectivity for distance learning? So habang hindi pa nasa-solve ni PLDT, ni Converge, at ngayon tong kakapasok lang na internet provider ito nung dito, let's try first to navigate no in low bandwidth connectivity. Okay. So again, those are all our events now. By the way, bago po natin makalimutan, okay, would like to invite you also again to please subscribe also to Sir Angelo's channel. Okay, you'll find also Sir Angelo is still building up his channel. Okay, but you'll see already a growing number of resources right there. So please indulge us by subscribing to Sir Jello's channel. Let me put that in the chat right there. Okay, so that's Sir Jello's YouTube channel. That's connected with Sir Jello. Okay. Kay Sir Jello, may connection. Yes. Parang kanina, no? Yung mga teacher kaya, dito may forever. So pwede niyo pong i-replay lagi yung mga resources namin. Kasi dito, My forever. Okay. Let's now move on, teachers, to our, habang nagkukwentuhan po kami dito, to our evaluation link. Okay. So we have here now, so you may now start, okay, to evaluate. Okay. That's https tinyurl.com/August series P1. Okay. Let me know if it works, okay, because sometimes, we're busy at nagkakamali ang mga setting. It works daw according to the teacher Pao. Okay. So please, you may evaluate our this webinar until Saturday, 8 p.m. Okay. And we'll be sending your certificates in 5 to 7 days. Okay. But po 5 to 7 days kasi po kailangan ko pong mag-love life din. So hindi pwedeng hindi pwedeng agad-agad pinapadala ang certificate. So, kaya po tumatagal. Okay? Kasi love life muna. Mas kidding, teachers. Kaya matagal po yung processing, no? At hindi pa natin basta-basta mapapadala agad yung certificates nyo. That's why it's 5 to 7 days ang ating pag-send ng certificates. Yan. Okay, teachers? So yun, Sir Jello, Teacher Pao, meron pa ba tayong mga insights, reminders para sa ating mga teachers? Okay? About inclusion, accessibility. Siguro lang, no, yung kanina baka lang hindi masyado na-emphasize, okay? Walang formula talaga si inclusion tsaka accessibility. Kung titingnan natin, no, wala siyang fina-follow na formula. Like, wala siyang plan. Like, wala kang makikitang like a definitive book or definitive resource na pwede magsabi sa'yo na ito ang step 1 mo, ito ang step 2 mo, ito ang step 3 mo about accessibility or promoting accessibility in the classroom. Lagi nga katulad nga nung last na reminder ni Miss Howell kanina ni Stephanie is that you go back to your students. Kasi doon mo makikita kung paano mo sila i-include sa klase mo. Okay? And siguro, baka gusto nyo i-explore yung tinatawag nating design thinking. That will really help you design instruction that promotes accessibility, that is centered on your students. Okay? Pero yun nga, no, Teacher Pao, yung na-mention mo kanina, yung number of students talaga. At that's the reality. Kasi syempre yung mga cases ni na teacher ni na Miss Howell, ni na Miss Steph sa USK, they have like 10, 20 per teacher ratio. Meron pang teacher assistant 'yun. So usually they have another teacher in the room that monitors and manages the classroom as well. Okay, for us, we are challenged by the teacher-student ratio itself. Alam ko sa batas po 40 dapat, 40:1. Pero we know for all that doesn't really happen.
Oo, lalo na ngayon. Ang hirap kaya online. Paano mo i-one-on-one yung online? Paano mo malalaman?
Oo,
Diba?
'di ba? Ang hirap nun.
Struggle yun.
Lalo na ngayon, 'di ba, parang nasiksik pa lalo. Merong mga classes na ngayon na 1:50 or ganun kadami. So mas mahirap ngayon. So
basta kasya sa Zoom room.
Yes.
Kasya sa Zoom.
Grabe naman yung kasya sa Zoom room. Pero again, siguro ang idea doon is that mahirap talaga siya kasi nagsisimula pa lang po tayo. Okay? It's something na kailangan nating patuloy na ipaglaban. Kasi pag tayo po yung mga guro ang nag-give up on inclusive education tsaka accessibility, then wala na makikipaglaban. Kawawa na po yung mga estudyante natin. Kung tatanggapin na lang natin na okay na, let's lump you all together as one homogeneous class na lang kayo. Regardless of your differences, we'll just throw you there and teach you in one way. Okay, so that's it. Okay. And again, we know that's not gonna work. Okay, somewhere down there in the learning process, 1 or 2 students, kung swerte, may maiiwan. May maiiwan at maiiwan. Okay?
But I think Sir Franco, just to add lang, no, now that we are faced with this, no, may mga bagay talaga na syempre out of control din natin. So we just have to address it, no. Ang nakikita ko talaga is one way to actually do that is hindi natin kaya yung individualized, like one-on-one. But maybe we can work with groups first. No, work with groups lang na you are able to determine, you are able to know sino yung medyo magkakapareho ng skill level para at least alam mo where they are at. So it's para lumiliit yung kailangan mong i-target, no? Na alam mo na ito talagang medyo struggle talaga pa, alam mo nandito. Pero hindi mo sila nila label, ha. So, yun lang siguro yun din na parang we as teachers, we don't want to like label them na talagang yung sinasabi ni Sir Franco kanina, how do you avoid discrimination, no? You know, when you label them, it's not something that sets them apart. No, it just gives you an idea how to properly address them. So, feeling ko yun. Yan.
Yes, correct. Oo.
Siguro ako I'll
Pero,
follow doon, Sir Franco. Kasi isa sa mga nung nakuha ko talaga dun sa message ni Miss Steph is one, if you think that this would help in the inclusion, just try it and then let everyone use it. If they need it, use it. If they don't, di okay lang. Parang gano'n. So, kumbaga, in that particular level, siguro kahit marami, oo, yun talaga yung struggle natin, masyadong marami nung classroom natin. But if we just use at least, let's start using one and let's try it. If some of them will be beneficial for some, then let's continue and then hayaan lang natin lahat gumamit, parang gano'n. Kasi minsan yun nga the challenge also of inclusion is sometimes we are excluding some of the students as well. So maganda nung message na if it helps them, go. If kahit hindi na kailangan, kung nakatulong sa kanila, use it. If not, and then hanap tayo ng panibago. Try natin to and everything. Yun.
Commute pa lang. Pero yun, no, at ang ano po sa tuloy ang laban. Okay? Kaya nga po isa yan sa mga magiging promotion natin for this month na alam naming mahirap at yun yung pong reality natin. Kaya lang wala naman pong lahat naman po ng mga bagay na worthy ay talagang dapat nating paghirapan, di ba? Yun yung sinasabi. Kaya saka hindi rin siya dapat naging option na pag mahirap, sukuan kagad natin, lalo na pagdating sa edukasyon ng ating mga estudyante. Okay? So, and again, teachers, na maraming salamat to all of you, to all the things that you're doing. Okay? We might not be able to truly understand your circumstances, your conditions, okay, what you're going through, but we're thankful for all your sacrifices. So, kapit lang po tayo at hopefully the better days are coming for Philippine education in terms of inclusiveness and accessibility. So, sana po dumating yun. Pero, again, kung walang makikipaglaban at walang magsusulong ng accessibility at inclusion, wala rin po talaga mangyayari. So, kaya po, tuloy-tuloy lang tayo sa pakikibaka para dito sa inclusion at accessibility para sa edukasyon. Yan, so maraming salamat po. So may question doon, sir, how do you handle students na nang-ghosting? Isa po yung mahirap na ano. Pero, miss, ano ba sagot natin dyan? Nang-ghosting, ipa-exercise po natin yan pag nag-ghosting na natin.
Hindi. I think yan, pag nang-ghosting, alamin natin kung bakit.
Yes, correct.
Alamin natin kung bakit. Kasi hindi natin alam ano yung situation nila eh. So get to the bottom of it. I mean, before you can actually say they're ghosting you just because they're not going in your classroom, no? Oo, alamin natin, no? Siguro 1 to 3 days. Ito magic number yan, 3 days. 3 days mawala yan sa classroom, hanapin mo na. Huwag nating paabutin ng linggo-linggo na hindi nagsasubmit or hindi nagpapakita. Ganon. Nahanapin natin kung nasaan sila.
Yes. Alam sometimes, alam ko rin yung parang minsan na kayo yung sentiments ng teachers natin, nakakapagod naman lagi pag iniintindi natin. Pero sa totoo lang po, no, that culture of understanding, that culture of getting to know first what's happening, is actually going to help your students. Okay? Yung tipong nalaman mo, kaya pala siya nang-ghosting kasi nawala na siya ng connection. Kaya pala siya nang-ghosting kasi nasira na yung device. Or kaya pala siya nang-ghosting kasi may nangyari sa family, may nagka-COVID, may nangyaring ganun. So, these kinds of things, no, should be sorted out first. And then, kung ma-confirm natin na the ghosting or the non-submission or non-compliance is actually habitual and intentional by the students, then that's the time we intervene in another way. Okay, but siguro, let's always try to be more positive in approaching our students, no, and in a way always give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay? Again, kasi yun din ganung klase ng culture will rub to them na si teacher hindi niya ako kagad ginudge, parang ganun. Inalam niya muna na ganun to yung circumstances ko.
Hmm.
At dadalhin niya yan, teachers, dadalhin niya yan kahit saan siya pumunta. May isang guro sa buhay niya sa online distance learning na naniwala sa kanya na hindi siya ginudge na ng ghosting siya kagad. Okay? Pero po pag sa pag-ibig, pag ghosting, wala na talaga yan. Hindi na talaga na-solve yan, no? Out na kagad pag sa pag-ibig yan. Just kidding, ano. Pero yun po,
Alamin mo rin
alamin mo
kung
natin.
anong dahilan. Alamin
Yeah.
mo rin. Maging fair tayo. Alamin mo rin kung anong dahilan. Kung
Pag
ano
sa
man
pag-ibig,
dahilan niya,
alam na,
pagdasal mo na.
adults na yun eh, hindi na yun. Pag nang-ghosting na, wala na yun. Pag sa pag-ibig nyo.
Parang may
Pero sa edukasyon
parang may
po, no?
pinaghuhugutan dun, ah.
Pag sa edukasyon po, alamin muna po natin yung context. Naguguluhan na yung mga teachers natin sa ating usapan. Ano? Ulit muna po tayo sa alamin. Again, teachers, balik po tayo. Edukasyon, alamin po natin ang konteksto, pinanggagalingan ng ating mga estudyante. Pag meron po kayo mga ganong kaso ng ghosting, non-submission, at non-compliance. Yan, okay? Para po ano tayo, okay? So yan, maraming salamat po. Jonas Harold Denso, padaliin ang buhay, i-ghosting na yan. Wag naman, okay? Maraming salamat, teachers. No? And Sir Jello, Teacher Pao, anything else bago po natin na i-close ang ating session? Okay, mukhang wala na, no? So, teachers,
Mute
yeah,
pala.
we're going to see you on Saturday, no, for our second session. So, wag po tayo mawala and hopefully magkita-kita po ulit tayo sa Saturday. 2 p.m. po yun, up to 4 p.m. Okay, thank you, teachers. Have a nice day and have a great night. Okay? Good luck on the rest of the week, no? Friday na po bukas, TGIF na tayo. Bye-bye.